Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I am live this morning in my free Facebook group, the Business Growth Community. I should also be live on LinkedIn and with a bit of luck live on YouTube as well. So I am full on multitasking this morning. I'm just going to do a very speedy double check here to make sure that I have gone live in the right place on Facebook because it has been known for me to cock that up. Yes, I am there. Fantastic. LinkedIn is over here. So I have, if you're talking to me this morning on Facebook, I will see your comments come up on here. LinkedIn, unfortunately, doesn't show me live comments. So I've got iPad over here, YouTube, no idea what's going on. I'll just happily leave that one in the background to do its own thing. But if you are here, say good morning, Sarah. I can see you already. Fantastic. So this morning, my hot topic is discounting and the perils of discounting in a small business. And those of you that know me personally, if you've ever met me at a networking event or been to one of my workshops or anything like that, will know that discounting is it's kind of one of my favorite topics, but also one of the things I hate most about small business. Because I think it's just such a massive dilemma for so many people. And often it's actually incredibly damaging to a business that's trying to grow, but also hidden behind that is frequently people don't quite realize the level of damage they're doing. So this morning, I'm going to share my favorite tips, thoughts, and insights about discounting, but also probably more importantly is help you to think about what you can do instead, how you can resist calls for discounting, how you can offer something different, but also how you can maintain your integrity, maintain your pricing, and actually create a more profitable business on the back of that. So, where shall we start? I often deliver a talk at networking events and things like that, which is called Why Discounting Makes You a Liar. And I'm just going to dive straight in today with that. Sarah wrote a blog about this. Yes, free postage. Oh, yeah, totally get it, Sarah. And you're in one of those spaces where lots of small retailers these days are pitted up against the likes of Amazon, where all the postage is free, but you're not Amazon. And there is no way you can compete with them. And so it's very much about positioning yourself differently. What people get from you is totally different to what they get from Amazon. So it absolutely makes sense that they need to pay prices and to include additional fees and things like that, which match what it is that you offer, not what it is that Amazon offers. So just coming back to the thought process of why discounting makes you a liar. If you think about companies that spring to mind when you think about discounting or think about sales, think about price reductions, and there'll be two or three companies that spring to mind straight away. There's one which is pretty much always mentioned when I give this talk. I won't say it out loud in case I get accused of something nasty. But let's just say they're a company that always has they have the Christmas sale, which is closely followed by the Boxing Day sale, followed by the New Year sale, followed by the Easter sale, followed by the spring sale, the summer sale, the autumn sale, the Thanksgiving sale, probably. So they're constantly on sale. Their products are constantly on sale. But what that actually means is if you think about your perception of that business, you don't think of them as a business with integrity. You actually don't believe their prices are genuine. So in terms of how you feel about them as a brand, it doesn't tend to be something where you feel that they're an admirable business. You know, you're not massively drawn to them. Yes, to be fair, it may be that they do win business on price, but that's because it's a price strategy right across the business. And actually, it's not a genuine strategy anyway. We all know that we're getting dragged in by these offers of big sale prices, but actually underneath it all, we know that the original RRP is not genuine anyway. So if you think about your perception of that company, it's generally not great. Whereas if you think about businesses that you perceive don't discount, and the businesses that often get named here are Apple, and interestingly, lots of people refer to John Lewis. Now, John Lewis actually does discount. They do run sales. I think they've done away with their slogan of never knowingly undersold now. which is interesting though, because Never Knowingly Undersold actually says we will price match. So they've done away with that. But the perception of companies like them becomes almost an aspirational brand. You have real respect for them as a business. The business feels like it's really got its act together. It feels very dignified. It feels like it's very competent. So if you think about your perception of the businesses that discount regularly versus the business that very rarely discount, it's quite incredible how your feelings towards each business can differ. But that can also happen with your own business. And what can occur is that discounting in itself actually creates more questions. And I think this is where there's a lot of the fascination in this for me, is that sometimes you may feel that there is a bit of pressure to agree to a bit of a price negotiation. You know, I can knock something off here. This will definitely win me the business. That's better than sticking avidly to my guns and losing the business. But then what you tend to find is discounts aren't actually that compelling to people anyway. And they open the door to more questions, as I say. So let's say that you give somebody a 10% discount. First off, that's not that exciting, is it? What people really want is a 50% discount, which is a great way to put yourself out of business. But when you then do offer a discount, then you've got all those questions of, well, actually, does that mean I really got your best price, or should I have asked for a bigger reduction? Well, hang on a minute. Why didn't you offer me your best price in the first place? How do I know I'm getting a good deal? Is the person that's going to come and buy from you next getting a different price to me? And of course, you open the door to your existing clients who've paid full price, feeling really disgruntled that all these newbies are now getting a much better price than them when they've been loyal to you for goodness knows how long. So I think the underlying theme of all of that is that discounting does not create positivity in a business, and it actually can be really damaging to your reputation and to your credibility. But even more so, it can be incredibly damaging to your profitability. And in a lot of cases, what I find is people think they're profitable, but they're not. And often discounting is the thing that makes the difference between actually taking home a profit and just about scraping even. So let's just have a think about the numbers on a really, really simplistic level here. So let's say that you sell something for £100, and you can do your own multiples of this depending on where your prices are. So, but let's say you sell something at £100, and let's say that it costs you £60 to make that sale. So if you sell products, then you've got a straight cost there in terms of how much does the product cost you to buy, and then the difference between what it costs to buy, what it costs to sell. That's really easy. In a service-based business, that margin is a lot harder to calculate, but that margin needs to factor in all of the overheads of your business. So if you think about office costs, stationery costs, travel costs, marketing costs, all the subscriptions that you've got for your website, for your emails, for all the different bits and pieces of software that you have for your business, for a team, for any outsourced support that you've got, or any employees that you've got. The cost of all of that are factored into how much it actually costs you to deliver your service every time. So let's imagine that it costs you £60 to deliver a service that you sell for 100, or it costs you £60 to buy a product that you sell for 100. And what that means at that stage is, on that transaction, on the surface, there is £40 of profit. 40% there is your profit margin. So let's say you've got a typical customer. Can I get a discount? Or I could definitely give you loads more business if you can give me a good price on this deal. And you know, your 10% is your typical, yeah, that's fine. You know, you don't even have to think about it almost. It doesn't touch the sides. Yeah, 10%, not a problem. So then if you look at the numbers again, the obvious thing about that is if you're the customer, the difference between £100 and £90 is not earth-shattering, is it? So you're not actually that blown away by it. It's not really that compelling. They're not going to be rushing out to all their friends and telling them, wow, these people have got an amazing deal on, come and buy from there. And ironically, if they do, all they're doing is advertising to their penny pinching mates that they should come to you because you're dead cheap. So actually, you don't even want referrals from those people. So it's not that exciting to the customer. It's probably not going to get, your door being hammered down for this 10 quid, 10% discount. But when you come back and look at your figures, you had on that transaction £40, 40% profit margin, but you've just given away 10%. So that 10% that you've given away is not 10% of your margin or your profit, it's 10% of the total price. So you've given away £10. Well, your profit was £40. So now your profit is 30. So actually your profit has just reduced by 25%. You have given away 25% of your profit in order to give the customer a 10% discount. And that's the crucial bit that so many businesses don't really understand. They just think it's a 10% difference in their own figures when actually it's 25. And sometimes it's much more than 25 because there's lots of people that are working with margins that are much lower than 40%. So it's very easy to wipe out your profits without realizing just how much you're giving away. What becomes increasingly fascinating is if you then continue to sell at that price, in order for you to get back to a position of £40 of profit, you actually have to create 33% more business. You've got to increase your business by a third in order to make the same amount of money that you would have made if you hadn't given away that 10% discount, which is quite fascinating again, isn't it? So when you dig into the gory details of discounting, this is why it's spectacularly, I was going to say fantastically, but I thought, no, that sounds positive, and this is not a positive thing. This is why it is spectacularly damaging to a small business. Now, the other thing to factor in here and thinking more about how to position yourself differently is you don't really want to be selling purely based on price. Now, I always have a thing that says, for me, I think around about 30% of people tend to buy purely based on price. You've got about 20% of people where price actually is bordering on irrelevant to them. They really appreciate quality or value or a specific supplier. You look at things like your Apple phones and you think about, is that value? But that is not what people are buying there. They're not going for the best value, best priced product at that stage. So there's 20% of people that buy based purely on the kind of the brand, the aspiration, they just absolutely love you and they don't give a monkeys about price. And then there's about 50% of people who they buy based on value. So price is a factor, but it's down the list of factors. So the vast majority of people buy based on quality, on service, on reliability, on dependability, on reputation. They buy based on testimonials and referrals. They buy based on the service that they've had or the service that their friends have talked about. So actually price for the majority of buyers comes quite a long way down the list. So one thing to think about is if you're having a lot of discussions in your business about price, if the majority of your potential customers are regularly talking to you about price, that's an indication that they don't really understand the value that you offer. If you think about yourself as a purchaser, if you're not sure what to ask about something, if you feel a little bit in the dark about a product or a service, the fallback question tends to be price. How much does it cost? It's almost the safety net of questions. It's like the default question when you're not sure what else to ask. But actually what your customers should be asking you about is things like quality, service, the specifics, the what's in this for me, the how is this going to help me, what is it you actually deliver, and really thinking about how does the product work, what is it going to do for them. And that's the type of conversation that you should be having with your customers. If you're having that conversation, then price comes a long way down the line, and actually you should find that will not necessarily eliminate, because there's still 30% of people that buy purely based on price, but it should dramatically reduce the volume of conversations that you're having purely about price. So if you're getting lots of requests for discounts, that's an indicator for you to take a look at your own marketing, have a look at your messaging, and think about, am I conveying quality? Am I conveying that we are a really great product? Am I conveying that this is a really useful service? Am I actually getting across the phenomenal results that we have, or the incredible impact that our customers see? Is my messaging talking to the right clients? Am I talking about what we deliver and talking about impact, or am I talking about us being accessible for customers with all budgets? Or are we talking about being reasonably priced or realistically priced? Because all of those things say cheap to customers, and your bargain hunters love that, but your value-based customers don't love that. So there's a key thing to think about as well. So, now here's one of my favorite areas, mates rates. Oh my giddy ants. Yeah, mates rates is such an intriguing area. I think the vast majority of us have gone through the perils of mates rates, where you've offered a lower price, sometimes even a free price, to friends or family. And it is interesting how often friends and family think that suddenly they're going to get a bargain deal from you. Your customers are willing to pay the full price, and yet actually your family wants to shaft you and take a discount. But we let them off because essentially that's just them showing the fact that they don't necessarily understand about margins in business and things like that. But mates rates is a huge trap that you really do want to avoid, and there are two reasons for this. The first reason is you're getting shafted on your pricing. So everything we've just talked about there in terms of discounting and giving away the profit margin, all is exactly the same if you're giving mates rates to friends or family. But the other key reason is that actually mates rates arrangements almost always end in disappointment, and from both sides quite often, because what you find is what tends to happen is either your mates or your family somehow are super demanding. It's incredible how often it's your mates that become super demanding and want things changed 15 times over, or an extra sample of this or a bit more of that, and actually can turn into your most awkward customers. And what you find in that situation is you're likely then to become incredibly resentful because they're paying you peanuts and actually they're super demanding. But actually, even if they turn out to be a blissful customer, there's a good chance you will still find yourself somewhere down the line feeling resentful, because the amount of time that you're spending with them or the amount of product that you're providing to them is something that you could be doing with a customer that pays you full price. And it can actually really kind of dent your self-esteem or your sort of business esteem, because you're suddenly in this situation where you feel like you're giving away your best stuff for peanuts. So it's not good for you in terms of pricing and in terms of mentality. But the other flip side as well is what you can often find is that your mates can also end up being disappointed. And some of the reason this happens, this is probably less family, but more thinking about business mates, or perhaps people in a networking group, which, to be fair, for me, you should never be giving discounts to a networking group. The whole point is you're all there to help each other's grow. You're not actually there to fleece each other. However, let's just say somebody in your networking group wants to do a bit of a deal with you, maybe do a skill swap. Those are always dangerous, but you're giving them a really good deal because you've decided that's a good thing to do. But what can often happen is they recognize that you've given them a good deal, you've given them a bit of a cut price, but you're feeling slightly resentful because now you're doing this work and you're not getting paid full price for it. So you might find that you're not quite as punctual, you don't quite deliver to the same level that you usually do. Your mate could then end up becoming frustrated with that, and they feel like actually they're not getting the best service, but they know that you've slashed your price, so they don't actually feel entitled to complain. And realistically, they're probably not entitled to complain because you've done them this great deal. But what that can mean is you're now disappointed because you've given away the potential profit. You're feeling resentful because you're giving away your time or your product. Your mate is feeling a bit resentful because they're not quite getting the level of service that they wanted. Everybody's miserable and no one's making any money. So my simple answer for mates rates, for friends rates, for family rates, for anything like that is just don't do it. charge people the full normal price and give them your full best level of service, and everyone will be happy. And if they can't pay that price, then either they need to find another supplier that can do it at a different price, or they need to save up, don't they? But they need to kind of recognize that. Now, one thing I will say is you always have a choice as to whether to do a certain number of things at a discounted rate. You might do an occasional thing pro bono. You might do a different price for charities or something like that. Although I can promise you a lot of charities have got a lot of money sitting in the bank. But the key thing I would say with that is just be super clear on what your strategy is for that. So there's a really big difference in you saying, I'm going to provide my service free once a quarter to a different charity, than there is a charity that comes to you and says, can we have it for free? Because if the charity comes to you asking it for free or for a bargain or whatever it is, they're kind of already on the hunt and they're seeking bargain prices and probably fabulous service. Whereas when it's your decision, this is all part of the strategy of your business. You have built it into your financial plan. You understand exactly what impact that this is going to have on your figures. And it's something that makes you feel good. It's part of your strategy is giving back. So that's absolutely great. So I'm not suggesting that you never give a discount or you never do any pro bono work, but I would say make sure you always have a strategy for that, so that it's your decision, not somebody else's. Don't do the, oh, go on then, I'll just cave in, because really that is just the classic giving people a discount, resenting it later. Oh, I was going to chuck a bit in there. I'm thinking, should I save that to the end? Oh, interesting. Okay, so what should you do instead? Now, the first thing is to have absolute clarity on what your pricing strategy is. Is there any room for negotiation? If there is room, how much room is there not? And, you know, under what circumstances are you willing to negotiate? If you know all of that up front, then you are much more likely to stick to your guns, to not offer anything that you wish you hadn't later, and to feel much more confident about those pricing conversations. One thing that makes it difficult is when they come out of the blue. If there's a surprise conversation about, you know, can you do that at a better price for me, and you weren't expecting it, then you're on the back foot, and it's a bit, oh, how do I deal with this? Do I say yes? Do I say no? What should I do? Am I going to be a tightwad if I say no? But if you've got a strategy about it in advance, then you will know exactly how to deal with it. You can be confident, you can be composed, you can be absolutely sure you don't end up giving it all away. Now, your strategy might well be, I don't discount. And this is not an incorrect or inappropriate strategy. I can tell you I don't discount. I absolutely don't. I do tend to find that when I rant about discounting a lot on social media, people stop asking me for a discount. It's an interesting strategy in itself. But for me, there's a couple of different reasons why I don't discount. One is that I preach about it so much, so basically I would have zero integrity if I actually did it. But I also have a very simple principle where all of my clients pay the same price. So nobody will get a price this week which is less than somebody paid last week. I just have that real simplicity across the business. It's an approach that I absolutely believe in. It's all about fairness to all of my clients. And that's always my comeback. So if somebody does ask me for a discount, that's exactly how I explain it, that all of my clients pay the same price. There is no favoritism towards new clients or to old clients. And that's exactly how I run my business. And I recommend you run yours the same. So it's quite easy for me to resist that discount. Yeah, I think it's as simple as that. I think it's the clarity. It's having that clarity in advance about exactly how you will approach things. Now, the other thing to really think about here is, how are you articulating your value? And I have touched on this before, but that's probably one of the biggest things here, is that if your value is very clear, you know, if if your social media looks good, if your website looks good, if you've got lots of testimonials, if you've got things like video testimonials, they're amazing. If you perhaps have case studies. So if you've got evidence that what you do is great and that your clients are happy and people love your service, then all of a sudden your positioning is really different. But think as well about the brands that you respect. Think about what creates a perception of value for you, and even think about your competitors. And if you were to go and look on 4 or 5 websites of your competitors, and we could do that argument about none of us have competition, we can all collaborate, but if you were to go out today and go and have a look at 4 or 5 of your competitors' websites, and preferably people that you don't necessarily know, so just find new people out of the blue, go and have a look at a couple of their social media profiles and think about the perception that you develop for each of those. Because with some of them, you will go and have a look at their website or their social media and you will kind of go, well, these guys look a bit cheap. And with others, there will just be things about the way that they present themselves, the things that they talk about, the testimonials that you will look at, and quite quickly you will say, I think these guys are expensive. These look like they're going to be expensive. They look like they've really got it together, so I expect them to be expensive. So just think about all of that presentation for you. Are you presenting yourself in a way that somebody would look at you and think, he, she, they look like they really know what they're doing. They've got amazing results. They've got great testimonials. I can really see what they offer. Their structure's clear. Their products are clear. Their pricing's clear. These guys have got it going on. Would somebody think that about you? Or would their perception be, they look a little bit rough and ready. Oh, they look really, really friendly. They talk quite a lot about budgets and they talk quite a lot about price and value and things like that. So I think these guys will give me a really good deal. So really think about how you articulate your value, and think very much about how you talk to customers about that. So if you're having conversations with people about your product or about your service, make sure that price is coming a long way down the line for you in that discussion. So let's say somebody says to you, can you send me more details about your workshop? Then what you wouldn't want to do is say, hi, you asked me more details about my workshop. Here's how much it costs. Here's the date. Here's the detail. Oh, and by the way, we're going to cover this, and these are the results you're going to get. Because the first thing the customer's seen is the price. You're diving straight in on price. You're making this a transaction rather than a valuable interaction. So think about how you have your conversations, how you present your messaging, and make sure you're loading value up front and price right at the end. You almost want to make price an afterthought, because if you present it that way, then actually price becomes a bit of an afterthought for your customers as well. They will follow your lead on this. Now, one of the other things to think about is if a customer is trying to discuss or negotiate price, think about a way that you can add value rather than discount, because adding something can often create an incredible perception of value. So as an example, I worked a few years ago with a hairdresser, and we had the classic conversation, I think it was Easter, I'm sure we had the classic conversation of, do you think I should do a special offer for Easter? Shall I do, I don't know what she was suggesting, 10%, it might even be 20%. Shall I do 20% off hairstyles this weekend? But, we did the classic thing and we looked at costs and prices, and actually 20% for her in terms of margin, that was a lot of her profit. That was probably 60% or something like that of her profit at the time. So for her, she was really giving it away. We obviously looked at, who is this going to attract to you? Penny pinchers. Penny pinchers are not loyal. That's the other crucial thing to think about. So if you attract customers to you based on a discount, they're either going to want that discount from you constantly, or they're just going to go somewhere else the moment they get a price somewhere else. So you don't want to attract the penny pinchers with a discount, because they're not loyal, they won't stick around. So with the hairdresser, what we actually looked at instead was, she built in, I think she put a £5 on it. I think she added the price slightly, but added in a spray tan. So to the customer, the spray tan usually retailed at, I think it was 20 quid at that point. You can tell this is a while ago. Usually retailed at about 20 quid, but it only actually cost her £1.50 to deliver. but suddenly the customer feels like they're getting an extra £20 worth of value. So the perception to them is, now I'm getting this amazing deal. This is fantastic. So that's the point where they're off talking to all their friends and they're inviting people along. And these are friends that are not looking for a discount. Yes, they're looking for good value and they're looking for nice incentives, but they are happy to pay full price for that hair, which means they may well come back next time and continue to pay full price for the hair next time. They're not just going to be the penny pinchers who constantly want a discount. So, final little caveat is, should there be any exceptions to this? Are there any circumstances where actually it does make sense to offer a discount? The key thing I would say here is, I would recommend that you only offer a discount if there is a really significant benefit to your business. Now, a significant benefit is not somebody who says, I've got loads more business for you if you give me a great deal this time. Because tempting as that is, I think we've all been burnt by that, and you know that that almost never comes off. Most of the time, that's a bit of a bargaining strategy from somebody who is a bargaining expert. So avoid those. However, if there is a really genuine benefit to your business, so perhaps if somebody is going to book in for a year's worth of support or something like that, and that would make a really big difference to your business, or if somebody is going to pay you quite a significant amount of cash up front, and that cash would make a really big difference to your business, or if somebody's just going to buy lots and lots of products straight away. So something that is going to make a really noticeable impact, a positive impact on your business like that, then yes, you may want to consider a small, manageable discount. So I'm not saying never do it, but what I'm saying is there really needs to be a payback for it. There really needs to be a significant enough benefit for you to justify doing that for your business. And then the final thing I would say, I'm going to give you two final things, is if nobody ever questions your price, if nobody ever tells you that you're too expensive, then you're definitely too cheap. Because those 30% of people that buy purely on price, they should be telling you you're too expensive. If they're not, that's an absolute sign that you're too cheap at the moment and you need to put your prices up. You may also find that you're losing business if you're underpricing, because a lot of people will look and say, that cannot be any good at that price. You can lose just as much business being too cheap as you can by being too expensive, without a shadow of a doubt. And what you really want to do is go much more Stella Artois and be reassuringly expensive. You would be surprised how often putting your prices up actually increases sales, because suddenly the customers have this different perception. If they're charging that, they must be really good at what they do. Whereas charging this, yeah, they're probably okay. So you suddenly shift yourself in the customer's eyes, the perception being that you're much better at what you do if you've got the balls to charge a higher price. I'm not saying go out and just charge stupid prices. Always charge a good price for good work, good products, good service, great delivery. And we're just looking for fairness for absolutely everybody. I have overrun my timings, as always, by 3 minutes. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. You've all been very quiet and very well behaved today, actually. But thank you very much for watching and joining me. If you do this as a catch-up, give us a little hashtag replay, because it's always really nice to know who's catching up. If you do watch this later and you have any questions about what I've talked about today, please feel free to drop a comment. Drop a question into the comments, and I will very happily catch up with those later and come back to you with some advice, tips, or info. And if you feel like you really need help with your pricing strategy, then maybe get in touch with me about my strategy session. So I offer a 60-minute strategy session recorded on Zoom, where we brainstorm your biggest challenge right there and we look for a solution right there on the spot. Those are £165 for an hour, and they are, as you can imagine, stuffed with value. So an hour of fantastic brainstorming time to get your biggest challenge out of here and worked out into a fabulous solution. So drop me a message if you're interested in that. Drop me a message with any questions. Otherwise, I will see you all very soon. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you, Sarah. See you soon.